The man among aliens. The rain was red on low thrane, dot crimson like blood, but darker, heavier, as if the sky bled rust. The planet's storms carried iron dust from its mountains, staining every downpour a rusty hue. The Lothrani said the rain was the blood of their world, proof that Lothrain was alive and enduring. To Elias Cross. It just smelled like war. He sat on a steel girder 200 meters above the alien city, boots dangling over the abyss, hands blackened with grease. Below him stretched Kelthar Spire, the tallest of Dock Tower, 6 scaffolding lined with glowing pipes and humming stabilizers. The tower was a skeleton of steel and light, designed to guide skyships into birth. Yet it was Elias's job to keep it from falling apart. Not glamorous work, but it paid enough for food and rent. He reached into the housing of a faulty stabilizer, sparks spitting against his jacket, and grunted as he twisted a wrench against stripped bolts. His breath fogged in the wet air. Somewhere behind him, steam hissed, ears whined, and city sirens pulsed faintly, always pulsing, always warning of something. But Elias wasn't listening. His eyes kept drifting toward the horizon, where lightning set the jagged black mountains, ablaze against the storm. To him, it looked too much like artillery fire, too much like the places he'd sworn never to see again. He had been a soldier once, sergeant of the Terran ground forces. 3 deployments, dozens of firefights. Too many graves. And when Earth finally signed its treaties and pulled back from the galaxy, Elias had put down his rifle and never picked it up again. That was the past. He wasn't a soldier anymore. He wasn't anything, really. Just a mechanic in a city that wasn't his. "You are late," said a sharp voice behind him. Elias didn't turn. He kept his hands busy inside the stabilizer, muttering, "Rails busted. I'm fixing it." The voice came closer, light footsteps on steel. "You brood again." Only one person said things like that to him. Kai. Elias looked over his shoulder. Kalen stood on the beam, perfectly balanced despite the wind. Tall, lean, cloaked in fibers that shimmered faintly in the rain. Unlike most Lothrani, she didn't paint her skin with metallic dyes. Her face was bare pale blue, almost luminous under the stormlight. Golden eyes cut through the gloom, sharp and unwavering. "You watch storms as if they hold answers," she said softly. "But storms are only storms." Elias snorted. "You ever seen orbital bombardment? Storms ain't storms." "Not when they look like that." Kaylin tilted her head. "Always war in your words, always ghosts." He went back to work. "That's all I've got left." For a while, the only sound was the hiss of rain on steel. The city below stretched endlessly, a sprawl of angular towers and glowing bridges. Airships glided between docking bays like massive silver whales. Steam rose from vents along the streets, mixing with the storm. Fragile. Elias always thought. It looked fragile. One orbital strike would flatten the whole thing, and fragility never survived empires. Kalen broke the silence. "The Dominion is coming." Elias froze for a fraction of a second, then forced the wrench to turn another bolt. Heard the rumors, not rumors. Her tone was flat. "The Council received message this morning. The Zareth fleet approaches. They demand surrender." Elias set down the wrench, rubbing his face with a grease-stained hand. He had seen the Zareth Dominion's work before entire colonies broken, star systems swallowed, proud species reduced to dust. Always the same words. "Submit or burn." "You shouldn't even be here," Callan said, quieter now. "If they find you—" "They won't," Elias muttered. "They will." Callan's golden eyes glowed in the stormlight. "The Council knows. They know a Terran lives among us." "Do you think the Dominion does not know too?" Elias's stomach tightened. She was right. The Zareth had spies everywhere. If they suspected a human veteran was on Lothlorien, it would be enough to justify annihilation. What do you want me to do? Run? Elias asked. Kellen's jaw clenched. There is nowhere to run. The truth of it hung heavy between them. Lothlorien wasn't some frontier planet where a man could vanish. The Dominion's fleets were vast, their intelligence networks ruthless. If they wanted him, they'd find him. Kellen looked away, her gaze lost in the storm. Orders will come soon. The Council decides, and when they do, it will change everything. Elias frowned. What kind of orders? But Kellen didn't answer. She just stood there, golden eyes reflecting the storm, as thunder rolled like cannon fire across the sky. That night, Elias sat alone in his tiny room above the mechanic's bay. He couldn't sleep. Rain hammered the window, each drop a reminder of Kellen's words. Orders, decisions, consequences. He thought of Earth, of the silence after the wars, when Earth had turned inward, tired of bleeding for galaxies that never cared. He thought of the old fleet, rusting in dockyards, forgotten. He thought of the comrades buried under alien skies. He thought of how far he'd run, only to find the same fire waiting for him here at dawn, when the stormlight turned the horizon blood red. The sky split open, not with lightning, with warships, dozens, then hundreds. Black and silver hulls bristling with weapons, engines glowing like suns. The Zareth Dominion had arrived. The city erupted in chaos. Sirens wailed, markets emptied, families clutched children and fled into shelters. Airships scattered like terrified. Birds and Elias stood on the rooftop, Kellen at his side, watching doom descend. They're not here to talk, Elias said grimly. Kellen's voice shook. The council promised negotiations. There won't be any, Elias cut her off. The Zareth don't negotiate. They dictate. As if to prove him right, a voice thundered across the world. Not sound, something deeper. A vibration in the air, in the ground, in the bones of every living thing. The Dominion's voice. People of Lothlorien, you belong to the Zareth Dominion. Surrender your defenses, surrender your fleets, surrender your freedom and live. Resist and be erased. Kellen closed her eyes. Elias clenched his fists. The voice came again. Your council will receive orders. Follow them, and you will be spared. Orders. The same word Kellen had whispered yesterday. Elias turned to her sharply. You knew. Her golden eyes flickered. But she said nothing. You knew this was coming, Elias pressed. His voice was low, dangerous. The council already bent the knee, didn't they? Before a single shot was fired. Kellen's silence was answer enough. Above them, the fleet's engines roared, and the storm drowned in fire. Asterisk. The Empire descends. Dominion fleet filled the sky like a second horizon. Warships slid out of fold space, one after another, each the size of mountains. Their hulls shimmered with obsidian plating, their spines bristling with towers and cannon batteries. Plasma engines burned like captured suns. The clouds turned black beneath them, the stormlight. Drowned by fire, the Lothlorani had always spoken of the sky as sacred, untouchable. Now it belonged to invaders. Elias stood on the rooftop of his workshop, Kellen at his side, and watched the city dissolve into panic. The sirens wailed their long, hollow cry, rising, falling, then rising again. The sound cut through the airships, swarming between towers, through the crowds below. The streets, normally filled with merchants, jugglers, food vendors, and musicians, now boiled with fear. Families clutched children, some fleeing toward underground shelters, others toward temples, still others shouting to the sky as if defiance alone could stop an empire. Docking codes canceled. Kellen whispered, her golden eyes fixed on the sky. Transit halted. Council fears fleet bombardment. Smart of them, Elias muttered. He had seen this before cities frozen under the shadow of empires. Civilians caught like insects under a boot. The Dominion loved fear. Fear was cheaper than war. A low hum vibrated through the steel frame of the city. The Dominion's command ship had entered high orbit. Bigger than anything else in the fleet, it blotted out the clouds, its underbelly alive with arrays and docking bays. Its shape wasn't elegant. It was terrifying, designed to inspire awe. And then the voice returned. It wasn't sound through the air. It was transmitted through every frequency, every comm channel, every radio tower. It was a vibration in the bones. Even Elias, hardened soldier that he was, felt his knees weaken when it spoke. People of Lothrain, you belong to the Zereth. Dominion, your council has heard our terms. Obey and live. Resist, and your cities will burn. The words rolled across the sky like thunder. Elias clenched his fists. They've already made up their minds. Kellen's face was pale. The council promised. They promised negotiations. They said there would be time. There's never time. Elias cut her off. This is the negotiation. This speech right here. They'll demand everything and call it mercy. Kalen didn't argue. The voice thundered again. One of you hides among them. A human soldier. An enemy of the Dominion. Elias went still. The crowd below rippled with confusion. Lothrani shouted to one another, unsure, frightened. Some knew the word human. They had heard the stories of Terran wars, of the bloody frontier campaigns when Earth had defied the Dominion. Others only knew whispers, half-remembered tales of violent, short-lived beings who burned bright and fast. We know he is here. The voice pressed on. The council has concealed him. This is treason. Deliver him to us, and you will be spared. Refuse, and this world will burn. Kellen's head snapped toward Elias, eyes wide. His chest tightened. He could feel eyes on him even up here. Suspicion was already spreading in the streets below. Whispers would spread to shouts, shouts to mobs. The transmission ended, leaving the city in silence, broken only by sirens and rain. You knew, Elias said slowly. Kellen's throat worked before she spoke. The council told me to stay close to you, to watch, to ensure. Elias's jaw clenched. Ensure what? If you ran, she whispered. If you caused unrest. They said if we give them you, the fleet will leave. No war, no destruction. Only one life traded for millions. Elias laughed bitterly. Yeah, heard. That one before. Kalen stepped closer, her voice fierce now. I told them no. I told them they lie. The Dominion always lies. They will not leave, even if we give you. Her golden eyes locked on his. You cannot surrender. Elias turned away. His chest burned with old memories, orders to retreat, orders to abandon colonies, orders that cost lives, orders that never ended wars, only delayed them. They won't stop hunting me, he said finally. Not until they've got me, or I'm dead. Kellen's face was drawn tight, her jaw trembling. Then we fight. Elias almost laughed. Fight? Against this? Against ships that could glass continents? But when he looked at her, he saw no fear. Just determination. And he realized she meant it. A sudden roar from the streets, snap of their heads down. The crowds were shifting, splitting. Some Lothrani were shouting to hand the human over, their painted faces twisted with fear. Others shouted to protect him, calling him a guest, a worker, a brother. The tension spread like wildfire, spilling into violence. The Dominion hadn't fired a shot, and already Lothrain was tearing itself apart. Elias, Kalen said urgently. You must hide. Where? Elias asked. They're not blind. They'll tear this city apart until they find me. Kalen grabbed his arm. Not all will betray. Some know truth. Some will stand. Thunder split the sky. Not lightning. Engines. Dropships' Dominion troop carriers were descending through the clouds, black silhouettes against the storm. They're moving faster than I thought, Elias muttered. Kellen's grip tightened. The council will. Send orders soon. They will decide your fate. Elias stared at the ships blotting out the horizon. The council's orders weren't coming for Lotharing. They were coming for him. ** orders with Earth's name. The Dominion dropships did not land. They lingered in the clouds, their engines vibrating the air like war drums, as if the fleet was content to let the threat hang heavy over the city. The waiting was worse than an attack. Every second stretched, every heartbeat louder than thunder. Elias Cross sat in the shadows of Keltherspire's scaffold, Kalen beside him, both crouched low as the storm howled across the steel. From below came the sound of chaos. The Lothrani city, normally alive with music and color, was unraveling in real time. Voices clashed in the streets. Some shouted, "Give him to them." One life for millions. Others, "He is under our protection." No Dominion chains, no surrender. And some were quieter, whispers spoken in alleys, families telling children to remember this day that the fracture had begun. Elias pressed his palms into his eyes, trying to push back the pounding headache rising with the sirens. He could almost see the Dominion strategy like a blueprint. Announce the threat. Name the target. Force division. Let the prey fight itself until it begs for mercy. It was working. Your counsel, Elias said, voice hoarse. They made the deal days ago, didn't they? Kalen hesitated. Then she nodded once, sharp and bitter. They swore it would spare us. That the Dominion only wanted you. That if we delivered you, Lotharing would be left alone. Elias barked out a humorless laugh. Yeah, and you believe that? I did not. Kalen snapped, her golden eyes burning. But my voice is one among few. The elders choose survival over pride. They think surrender means life. Her hands trembled as she gripped the scaffold beam. They do not understand the Dominion as you do. They do not understand humanity. Elias looked at her. He wanted to say humanity didn't matter anymore, that Earth had abandoned these fights years ago, that he was just one man, broken and tired. But the words caught in his throat, because deep down, a part of him wanted to believe humanity still meant something. Before he could speak, the sky shook. The Dominion's command ship flared brighter, a halo of energy spilling from its underbelly. Then the voice returned, louder, heavier, echoing through every system on the planet. People of Lotharing, you harbor the Terran. Deliver him to us. The name cut through the storm like a blade. Terran, human. The word carried weight across the galaxy. It was the ghost of old wars, the whisper of an enemy the Dominion had never crushed completely. We know him, the voice thundered. Elias Cross, former sergeant of the Terran ground forces, enemy of the Dominion. You will surrender him, or you will burn with him. Kalen inhaled sharply. Elias felt his stomach twist into a knot. He hadn't heard his full name spoken like that in years, not since the war tribunals, when Earth had closed its borders and declared peace. Hearing it from a Dominion fleet made his skin crawl. They knew him. Not just that a human was here. They knew him. They've been tracking you, Kalen whispered. Watching, waiting. Wouldn't be the first time, Elias muttered, but his voice lacked conviction. He stared at the storm, mind racing. How? How could they know he'd ended up on Lotharing? He had no family left. No comrades. He'd buried his past with his uniform, unless Earth hadn't buried him. unless Earth had left him marked. Below, the city erupted again. Shouts echoed up the steel beams. Groups of Lothrani were already moving, pushing through the streets with painted faces and makeshift weapons. Some carried banners of surrender, others the sigils of resistance. "They are coming," Kalen said tightly. Elias saw it too. From their perch high on the spire, he could make out the ripple of a crowd moving with purpose. Toward him, toward the human. Kellen's blade flashed into her hand, curved and gleaming in the rain. "We must move." Elias shook his head. "Where?" "There's nowhere they won't look." "Then we do not hide. We stand." He barked a bitter laugh. "Stand against what? A mob?" Kellen's jaw set. "Yes." The mob reached the base of the spire, their voices carrying even through the storm. Some called Elias's name, demanding his surrender. Others shouted insults, threats, prayers. Plasma rifles gleamed in their hands. Elias felt his pulse quicken. He'd fought insurgents before, but this wasn't an enemy. These were frightened civilians, people torn between survival and pride. People who had been told one man's life was the cost of their future, and he knew exactly how far people would go when they were that afraid. Kalen crouched low, golden eyes fierce. "Stay behind me." "Like hell," Elias muttered, scanning the scaffold for anything he could use. No rifle, no grenades. Just rust, bolts, and broken pipes. He grabbed a length of steel pipe, testing the weight in his hands. The first Lothrani climbed the spire, faces wet with rain, eyes wild. One leveled a plasma rifle. Elias swung the pipe, smashing the weapon aside before it fired. Sparks showered, metal shrieked. The attacker fell back with a cry. The mob roared. More climbed. Kalen darted forward, her blade slashing weapons from hands, moving with fluid grace. Elias fought beside her, each strike quick and brutal, muscle memory dragging him back into the soldier he thought he'd buried. The storm echoed with shouts and screams. Plasma fire hissed, sparks lit the scaffolding, steel beams groaned under the weight of bodies. And then Elias froze. A rifle barrel pressed against his chest. The Lothrani, holding it, was young, shaking, terrified, but determined. "If we give you, they will spare us," he said, voice breaking. "Forgive me." Elias's grip tightened on the pipe. He saw the kid's eyes. Desperation, not hatred. A choice made by someone who wanted to live. Kalen screamed his name. And before Elias could react, the sky tore open again, not with Dominion ships, with something else, something Elias thought he would never see again. Asterisk. The betrayal below the young Lothrani froze, his rifle still pressed against Elias's chest, his trembling finger inches from the trigger. Every voice in the mob fell silent. Every weapon lowered because the storm itself had stopped. The clouds above split open like torn fabric, the Dominion's fleet looming dark against the violent sky. But through that darkness, light spilled sharp white and deliberate. A warship slid out of fold space. It wasn't Dominion. It was Terran. Elias's heart slammed against his ribs. He knew that silhouette. Boxy, utilitarian, covered in armored, plating like layered scars. Nothing elegant, nothing ceremonial. A ship designed only to survive and kill. A Terran strike cruiser. Paint peeled across its hull, but the insignia was unmistakable. The broken spear crest of the Terran defense fleet. A symbol Elias hadn't seen in years. A symbol he thought had been retired when Earth withdrew from the galaxy. Asterisk. Kalen stared, her golden eyes wide, rain streaking down her face. "Elias," she whispered, "it is one of yours." Above, the Dominion fleet shifted uneasily. Their formation flexed, ships pulling tighter, weapons arming. The appearance of a Terran vessel in their airspace was not just unexpected, it was unacceptable. Then came the voice, not Dominion.Terran. It didn't thunder with arrogance. It wasn't amplified to sound godlike. It was crisp, efficient, and human. Attention Dominion Fleet. This world is under Terran protection. Disengage and withdraw immediately, or you will be fired upon. Elias felt his knees weaken. The words didn't even seem real. Earth had abandoned these worlds. Humanity had turned inward. No one came to help. That was the truth. That had always been the truth. So why now? The Dominion's reply came. Fast, dripping with scorn. Terran cruiser, you operate outside sanctioned space. Earth declared neutrality. Your presence is a violation of Dominion Earth Accords. You will surrender the fugitive immediately. The Terran voice didn't waver. Negative. Repeat. Disengage and withdraw. This is your final warning. A low murmur rippled through the mob, clinging to the spire below. Confusion, fear, awe. Some dropped their weapons outright. Others looked at Elias like he was no longer just a man, but a symbol proof that the Dominion wasn't untouchable. The young Lothrani with the rifle to Elias's chest lowered his weapon slowly. His lips trembled as he whispered, You are not alone. Before Elias could answer, Kellen's hand shot to his shoulder. Her grip was iron. Her voice was sharp. Look. Elias turned down in the city streets. The council's guards were moving, not against the mob, not against the Dominion, against him. He recognized their uniforms, dark robes trimmed in silver. The crest of the Lothrani elders burned into their shoulders. They marched with precision, plasma halberds gleaming, shields raised and at their head, High Elder Rayvale. Kellen's face twisted. No, he promised. Elias cut her off. His stomach had already dropped into a pit. He promised survival. This is how he keeps it. Rayvale's voice echoed, carried on the city's amplifiers. People of Lothring, the Dominion comes with overwhelming force. Do not be deceived by this human trickery. The Council has chosen peace. We will deliver the Terran to spare our children. The mob's roar fractured again, half crying out in agreement, half spitting curses. Some knelt, relieved. Others brandished weapons, outraged, but the guards didn't hesitate. They began to climb the spire. Kellen's blade was in her hand. Before Elias could speak, We fight them, she hissed. No, Elias said, grabbing her wrist. We can't kill them. They're your people. They betray us. They're scared, Elias snapped. Killing them only proves the Dominion right, that humans bring only blood. For a heartbeat, their eyes locked, rain dripping between them. Then Kalen snarled and pulled free. What do you suggest? We run? Elias gritted his teeth. Yeah, we run. The scaffolding trembled as guards climbed. Elias scanned the steel beams, his soldier's brain working faster than his. Fear. North side, 3 levels down a maintenance hatch. He'd seen it earlier when looking for weak points. Follow me. They scrambled across slick metal, rain pounding, voices of the mob rising beneath them. Plasma bolts hissed past, searing holes in the scaffolding. One beam exploded, showering sparks. Elias swung down onto a lower platform, hands burning against the wet steel. Kalen followed, moving with predator's grace even as her teeth clenched in fury. Behind them, Rayvale's guards surged upward. The hatch loomed ahead, a rusted square set into the spire's flank. Elias slammed his pipe against it, once, twice, 3 times. The latch groaned. Kalen drove her blade into the seam and wrenched. The hatch burst open, clanging against the steel. They tumbled inside. Darkness. The air was damp, metallic, filled with the hum of machinery. Service tunnels stretched like veins through the spire, lit by faint green strips. Elias slammed the hatch shut behind him, chest heaving. Move. They'll cut through. They ran. Their footsteps echoed. Somewhere above, the Dominion fleet. And the Terran cruisers squared off in a silent standoff, weapons primed but not yet unleashed. And all Elias could think was, why now? Why is Earth here? The tunnels narrowed, then opened into a maintenance chamber filled with broken machinery and dripping pipes. Kaelin leaned against the wall, panting, blade still in her grip. Her eyes burned with betrayal. Rayvale would hand you over. He would hand me over if it pleased them. Not just him, Elias said quietly. He pointed upward. Every council, every world. They're all the same. They'll trade lives for peace. She shook her head violently. Peace bought with betrayal is not peace. Elias didn't answer. He knew the truth peace bought with betrayal was the only peace most people ever got. He'd lived it, but before he could speak, a voice crackled in the chamber. Not Dominion. Lothrani. Terran. Elias Cross. If you can hear this, respond. This is Commander Aria Vance of the TDF Resolute. We are here under orders. Do you copy? Elias froze. His throat tightened. Orders. The word cut deeper than any blade. Earth hadn't forgotten him. Earth hadn't abandoned him. Earth had sent for him. Kaelin saw the look on his face and whispered, Elias. What orders? Elias didn't answer. He couldn't, because the truth was dawning, heavy and unstoppable. This wasn't a rescue. This was a mission. And he was the mission. Asterisk, the war for truth. The voice echoed through the maintenance chamber, reverberating. Off wet steel. Elias Cross. This is Commander Aria Vance of the Terran Defense Fleet Ship Resolute. We are here under orders. Respond immediately. The words froze him where he stood. Aria Vance. He knew that name. Years ago, before exile, before disgrace, before he chose to vanish into Dominion territory, she had been his commanding officer. Sharp, unyielding, fierce. She was a soldier who didn't rake. And if she was here, then this wasn't chance. This wasn't mercy. This was deliberate. Colin's golden eyes searched his face, rainwater still dripping down her hair. Elias, who is she? He swallowed. His voice felt like gravel. My old CO, Kaelin blinked. Your what? My commander, he clarified. His gut twisted as memories clawed up his throat. Aria on the battlefield, barking orders over the screams. Aria in the tribunal, her eyes cold as Elias was dishonorably discharged. And now, Aria above, with guns aimed at the Dominion fleet, speaking his name across the void. Kaelin took a slow step forward, her blade still in hand, though. Her voice had softened. And these orders? Do you know them? Elias shook his head. No, but I know Earth. If they're here now after years of silence, it isn't to save me. The cum hissed again. Elias Cross. Acknowledge, or we will assume you are compromised. You have 60 seconds. Kaelin reached out, gripping his arm. Elias, if you do not answer, what will they do? Worst case? He muttered, they'll fire. And this city burns between them and the Dominion. Colin's jaw tightened. Then speak. Elias stared at the cum panel built into the wall, rusted, half-dead, jury-rigged to keep the spire alive. Could it even transmit? He wasn't sure, but the thought of Aria's voice waiting on the other end, it made his chest ache. Finally, he slammed the button. The panel sparked, light flickering weakly. His voice cracked out into the static. This is Elias Cross, he said. I copy. Silence stretched. Then Aria's voice came, sharp as ever. Elias, good. We thought the Dominion had taken you already. Elias barked a humorless laugh. Almost did, more than once. You're a hard man to find, Arya continued. Command sent us for you specifically. You are to be extracted. Immediately. Priority 1 orders. Kellen's grip on his arm tightened. Extracted, she repeated slowly. Her voice dripped suspicion. They mean to take you. Elias nodded once. Yeah, that's what it sounds like. Prepare for transport, Arya said. We'll cut a corridor through Dominion fire. Stand by. Wait. Elias's throat constricted. Arya, what's this about? Why me? Earth doesn't stick its neck out like this. Not anymore. A pause. Then Arya's voice, lower now, edged with something almost human. Orders, Elias. We don't question them. You'll understand once you're aboard. The comm cut out. Kellen's eyes were burning holes into him. They mean to drag you away, like cargo. Elias leaned against the dripping wall, his breath shallow. Yeah? And you'll go? Asterisk, the question pierced him. His instinct said yes finally. A way back, a chance at redemption, maybe even at survival. But another part of him, the part that had lived here, fought here, cared here, screamed no, because Kellen's world wasn't a mission. It wasn't an assignment. It was people. The ground shook, cutting through his thoughts. The Dominion had opened fire out above, the night sky split with searing light. The Resolute returned fire, its mass drivers thundering. Explosions lit the heavens, shadows rippling across the spire. The city below dissolved into chaos. Some cheered the Terran defiance, others screamed in terror. Plasma bolts rained down like fiery meteors. Asterisk, and in the midst of it, High Elder Rayvale's voice rose again. Citizens of Lothring, stand down. The human will be delivered. This is the will of the Council. Kalen spat onto the wet floor. Cowards, but Elias's mind spun. Something wasn't right. The timing. Earth's sudden reappearance. Rayvale's certainty. He turned to Kalen, urgency in his eyes. They knew. She frowned. What? The Council, Elias hissed. They knew Earth was coming. That's why Rayvale moved so fast. He wasn't just surrendering me to the Dominion. He was preparing for this. Asterisk, Kellen's face went pale. You mean? Elias nodded grimly. They cut a deal. With Earth. With the Dominion. Maybe both. And I'm the trade piece. The chamber rattled again, dust and sparks falling from the ceiling. Above, the two great powers clashed, and here below, betrayal festered. Kellen's eyes were fierce now. Then we cannot let them have you. Elias laughed bitterly. You planning to fight a Terran strike cruiser, Kalen? Asterisk, no, she said coldly. I plan to fight everyone who treats you like a weapon instead of a man. For a moment. Silence pressed between them. Heavy, honest, asterisk. Then the wall burst open. Dominion soldiers poured in, armored in black carapace, rifles glowing with plasma charge. They had tracked him through the tunnels. Contact. Elias shouted. Kalen didn't hesitate. Her blade flashed, carving through. The first soldier before his weapon could fire. Sparks and blood sprayed across the chamber. Elias dove behind a broken console, pipe in hand. A plasma bolt seared past, close enough to singe his arm. He swung the pipe up, catching a soldier under the jaw, sending the alien sprawling. The chamber erupted into chaos. Screams, hisses of plasma, the clang of steel. Elias fought with every ounce of fury left in his bones. But there were too many. Kalen slashed another, but a soldier's rifle slammed into her side. She staggered, gasping. Elias's heart lurched. He smashed his pipe into the soldier's back, sending him crashing down, but Kellen's blood stained the wet floor. Kalen! She snarled through gritted teeth. Not done yet. More Dominion. Soldiers poured in. Too many. Far too many. And then the ceiling split open. A blinding shaft of white light cascaded down, cutting through smoke and sparks. Elias shielded his eyes. A voice thundered from above, amplified by Terrantech. Target located. Commence extraction. Before Elias could move, the light seized him. His body lifted, weightless, pulled upward by the transport beam. Elias! Kaelin screamed, her voice raw. She leapt, grasping his wrist with iron strength. For a breathless instant, he dangled between two worlds. Kellen's desperate grip anchoring him to Lothring, the Terran beam pulling him skyward, her golden eyes locked on his. "Do not leave me to them," she begged. Elias's heart split in two, but the beam pulled harder, and her fingers began to slip. Asterisk the breaking point. The light was blinding, tearing Elias away from the dripping steel of the spire and the blood-soaked floor below. His stomach churned as gravity surrendered him to the beam. He was rising fast, unstoppable, but Kaelin clung to his wrist, her grip desperate, her face twisted with fury and fear. "Elias!" She screamed, voice raw with pain. "Do not let them take you." The white beam hummed, a terrible pull. His body stretched toward the heavens, while Kellen's weight dragged against him, anchoring him to the shattered chamber. He could feel her strength faltering. Her eyes, those burning gold eyes, held him, and in them he saw not a warrior, not an alien, but the only friend he had left. The Dominion soldiers below snarled and fired wildly, bolts of plasma lancing through the air. Some dissolved against the beam's energy shield, others seared past Kellen's back. Sparks hissed. "Hold on." Elias roared, though his arms screamed with the strain. "I'm not letting you go." But her fingers were slipping. The beam didn't care. It only pulled. Her nails scraped his skin as she lost purchase one by one, her fingers sliding away. Elias's heart hammered. Not like this. Not her got with a surge of reckless strength. He bent upward, fighting the current, and slammed his other hand down to seize her wrist. He caught her. Barely her body lifted from the ground as the beam intensified, pulling them both. A Dominion soldier's shouts turned panicked. They fired harder now, desperate to drag her back, to sever the link. Then a voice thundered from above, sharp, merciless, amplified by Terran comes. "Release the alien. Extraction protocol is for Cross only." Elias's blood turned to ice. Kaelin snarled through clenched teeth, spitting toward the heavens. "They see me as filth." Elias ignored the voice. He looked down at her, her armor scorched, blood dripping down her side. She had saved him more times than he could count. And now Earth was ordering him to cut her loose. Cross only, not her. Never her. No. Elias roared, his voice echoing like thunder inside the chamber. "She comes with me, or I don't come at." "All." Asterisk silence answered for a moment. The Dominion soldiers screamed below, firing bolts that fizzled against the light. Kellen's body shook with pain, her grip still locked to him, stubborn, unyielding. Then the voice came again, calm, clipped, cruel. "Negative. Orders are clear. Cross is priority, one asset. The alien is irrelevant." Kellen's lips trembled. "Then let me go, Elias. Do not throw yourself into their cage for me." His heart twisted. She meant it. She was ready to fall back into fire, into plasma, into the Dominion's claws, just so he might live. But he couldn't. He wouldn't. "You're not irrelevant." Elias growled through clenched teeth. "Not to me." The voice from above barked. Again. "Cross, release the alien or we cut power to the beam." Elias's pulse spiked. If they cut power now, he and Kaelin would plunge straight into the Dominion's claws. Both would be lost. But if he obeyed, she would die. He made his choice. Elias twisted his body upward, pulling Kaelin higher into the beam, using every scrap of strength left in his battered frame. You'll take her too, he shouted into the white void. Or you'll take neither. Of us. For a moment, only static answered. Then another voice broke through, colder, older, the kind that carried the weight of command. Cross. Stand down. This is Admiral Hulson. You are under direct orders. The alien compromises mission integrity. Release her immediately. Elias spat into the light. To hell with your orders. The Admiral's silence was louder than a scream, and then suddenly the pull shifted. The beam widened, power surging, wrapping around Kaylin as well. Her body jerked upward with his. Both of them ripped through air and smoke as the chamber below shrank. The Dominion soldiers' screams vanished beneath them. The beam swallowed them whole. When Elias's vision cleared, he was on metal. Cold, polished metal. The transport pad beneath him gleamed in clinical white light. Air tasted sterile, recycled. The hum of Terran machinery buzzed against his bones. He was aboard the Resolute. Kaylin lay beside him, breathing hard, her blade still clenched in her hand, though her knuckles were white. Terran Marines in black armor surrounded them instantly. Rifles raised. Drop the weapon. One barked. Kaylin snarled, raising the blade, but Elias threw his hand over hers. Wait. His voice cut through the tension. The Marines hesitated. Then she let the blade fall with a clatter. A door hissed open. Boots clicked against the floor, and she walked in. Commander Arya Vance. Her hair was tighter, streaked with gray now, but her presence was the same, razor-sharp, a storm compressed into flesh. She looked at Elias not with warmth, not even with recognition, but with assessment. You've put us in a difficult position, Cross, she said coolly. Elias stood slowly, pulling Kaylin up beside him. I didn't ask you to come. No. Arya agreed, folding her hands behind her back. You were ordered to come. Kaylin stepped forward, golden eyes ablaze. He is not yours to order. Arya's gaze flicked to her, calm, dismissive. And what exactly are you supposed to be? Another Dominion pawn? Kellen's blade twitched on the floor, but she stayed silent. Her face burned with humiliation. Elias snapped. She saved my life again, and again? She's the reason I'm alive long enough for you to drag me here. Show some damn respect. For the first time, Arya's face cracked just slightly. A flicker of something, quickly buried. Then she turned, signaling the Marines. Take them. Both to containment. Kaylin hissed. Containment? Arya's voice was steel. You're not guests. You're assets. The Marines moved in, rifles gleaming. Elias braced himself, ready to swing again if he had to, but Kellen's hand pressed against his arm. Her golden eyes met his, fierce but steady. Not yet, she whispered. We need to see where this road leads. Elias's jaw clenched. He hated it. But she was right. They allowed themselves to be escorted out of the chamber, the white lights burning above, the hum of the ship vibrating beneath. For Elias, it felt less like rescue, more like capture. And deep down he knew Earth hadn't come to save him. They had come to use him. Hours passed in the sterile cell. Smooth steel walls, no corners, no shadows. Kaylin paced like a caged beast, her tail lashing with anger. Elias sat with his back against the wall, staring at the ceiling. Finally, the door hissed open again. Arya stepped inside, alone this time. She looked older, wearier, but her eyes still carried that sharp edge. Elias, she said simply. He didn't move. So what's the game, Arya? Why now? Why me? She studied him for a moment. Because you know the Dominion, in ways no one else does. You've lived among them. You've seen their tactics, their weaknesses. Elias laughed bitterly. So I'm intel now. A walking report. Arya's lips pressed thin. You're more than that. Command believes you're symbolic, Elias frowned. Symbolic? Arya nodded. Earth has been silent too long, weak too long. But if the galaxy sees that even one disgraced soldier can survive among the Dominion, resist them, outlast them, it proves something. It proves humanity is stronger than the Empire ever believed. Elias stared at her, his chest cold. Asterisk. So I'm a story, a flag to wave. Yes, Arya said flatly. And you'll do it, because those are the orders. Elias stood slowly, his fists curling. Kaelin moved closer, silent but ready. And in that sterile room, Elias Cross realized the war wasn't just between humanity and the Dominion anymore. Asterisk, it was between orders and choice, between being used and being free. Asterisk. Orders and defiance. The cell walls hummed faintly, a reminder of the invisible field holding them prisoner. Kaelin prowled like a caged predator, her golden eyes burning. Elias sat on the bench, hands clasped, staring at the floor. Symbol, he muttered. That's all I am to them. A puppet with scars. Kaelin stopped, her claws tapping the metal. Then break the strings. Elias looked up. Her face was fierce, but her voice held something softer beneath the steel. She had followed him this far, not because of orders, but because of trust. Before he could answer, the door hissed open. 2 Marines entered, followed by Arya Vance. Cross, she said briskly. We've reached orbit above Carvos Prime. Dominion fleets are converging. You'll address them live transmission. We want the galaxy to see a human who survived their empire. A warning and a promise. Elias rose slowly, his jaw tight. And if I don't? Arya's eyes narrowed. Then the war will grind on. And countless more will die. Don't pretend you're not needed. Don't pretend your choice doesn't matter. Kaelin stepped forward, fury flashing. He is not yours to parade like a trophy. Arya turned her gaze on her, cold as vacuum. And you're not even supposed to be here. You should thank him for your life. Elias snapped. Enough, both of you. He stepped between them, voice raw. This isn't about orders or propaganda or who's grateful to. It's about what's right. And right now, he jabbed a finger at Arya. Earth is acting no better than the Dominion. The words hung heavy. Even Kaelin fell silent. Arya's face hardened, but her eyes flickered with something Elias hadn't seen in years. Doubt. Before anyone could speak again, the ship rocked violently. The floor lurched. Sirens wailed. A voice crackled over this. Comes. Dominion fleet breaking through. Shields at 60%. Kellen's teeth bared in a savage grin. They found us. Elias turned to Arya. You wanted a symbol? Then unlock this cell. Right now. For a heartbeat, Arya hesitated. Then another tremor rattled the deck, and she cursed under her breath. Fine. She keyed her wristband. The cell shimmered, then dissolved. Kaelin grabbed her blade from the wall. Elias flexed his fists, blood singing with adrenaline. Arya eyed him sharply. Cross, remember, we need you alive. No heroics. Elias smirked grimly. Heroics are the only thing I'm good at. The corridors of the Resolute were chaos. Marines sprinted to stations. Officers barked orders. Alarms wailed like wounded. Beasts. Through the viewports, Elias glimpsed it. The Dominion fleet, black spires of warships blotting out the stars. Crimson lances of energy hammering Earth's shields. Kaelin growled low. They came hungry. Arya shoved a datapad into Elias's hands. The fleet needs rallying. We're broadcasting on all channels. If you speak now, the galaxy will hear you. Elias stared at the device. His reflection stared back scarred. Tired, broken. A man who didn't belong to Earth anymore, or the Dominion. He looked up. If I say the wrong thing, what then? Arya's jaw clenched. Then we lose. The ship shuddered again. Kalen grabbed his shoulder, golden eyes blazing. Speak truth, not orders. Truth is stronger. Elias inhaled slowly, then tapped the pad. The lights dimmed. A holocamera whirred to life. He spoke. This is Elias Cross. Some of you know my name. Most of you don't. Doesn't matter. What matters is this. I lived among the Dominion. I saw their power, their cruelty, and I survived. Not because I was stronger than them. Not because I was smarter. I survived because I refused to become what they wanted me to be. I refused to be their tool. The comms officer gestured wildly signals coming in from across the fleet, from allied worlds, even from neutral systems. They were listening. Elias's voice grew harder. And now Earth wants me to stand here and be a symbol. To say the right. Words, wave the right flag. But I'm done with orders. I won't be anyone's weapon. Not theirs, not ours. If humanity is going to stand in this galaxy, it won't be because of propaganda. It'll be because we fight for each other. For the ones no one else will fight for. For the ones they call irrelevant. He looked at Kalen. She stood tall beside him, blade gleaming, pride burning in her eyes. Elias turned back to the holla. His voice thundered. So here's my message to the Dominion. You wanted to break us. You failed. You wanted to make us kneel. You failed. And here's my message to Earth. If you want me as your symbol, fine. But understand what that symbol means. Humanity doesn't bow to empires. Humanity stands with the broken. Humanity fights with the forgotten. And we do not stop. He slammed the pad shut. The broadcast ended. The room was silent. Then cheers erupted across the comms. Human voices, alien voices, rising together in defiance. Kellen's smile was sharp, proud. Now that was a weapon worth wielding. Arya's face was unreadable. But in her eyes, Elias saw it again, that flicker of doubt, of respect. The ship jolted violently. A Marine burst in. Admiral. Dominion boarding parties on decks 12. Through 15. Arya snapped into command. Deploy squads. Seal bulkheads. She glanced at Elias and Kalen. You wanted to fight for something real? Prove it. Elias grinned grimly. Gladly. The corridors burned with plasma fire. Dominion soldiers armored, snarling, inhuman poured through breach points. Marines met them with rifles and steel, but the fighting was brutal, close, desperate. Elias moved like a storm. Years of rage and training flowed through him. His fists shattered bone. His stolen blade slashed through armor. Kalen was a whirlwind beside him, her golden eyes blazing, her movements lethal poetry. Together, they carved a path through the chaos. Two warriors bound by trust, stronger than any order. But the Dominion kept coming out at last. They reached the engine core. Dominion saboteurs were planting charges. If they succeeded, the Resolute would die, and with it, Earth's fleet. Elias charged. The fight was savage blood, steel, fire. Kellen's blade clashed against Dominion axes. Elias tore weapons from their hands, turning them against their owners. One by one, the saboteurs fell, but the last a towering Dominion commander drove a blade straight toward Kellen's heart. Elias didn't think. He threw himself in front of her. The blade pierced his side. White-hot pain exploded through him. Kalen screamed his name, fury and anguish raw in her throat. She drove her blade through the commander's chest, ripping him apart. Elias staggered, blood soaking his armor. Kalen caught him, holding him upright. Why? She choked. Why would you do that? Elias managed a weak grin. Because you're not irrelevant. She pressed her forehead to his, trembling. Foolish human. Arya and her Marines stormed in, securing the core. She froze at the sight of Elias, bleeding in Callan's arms. For a moment, her mask cracked, grief flashing across her face. "Medics!" She barked, voice sharp with urgency. Elias's vision blurred. He felt himself slipping, but he also felt Callan's grip, fierce and unyielding. He wasn't alone. And he realized he never would be again. Hours later, the Dominion fleet withdrew. The Resolute held the line. Across the galaxy, Elias's words spread like fire, igniting something Earth hadn't felt in centuries. Hope. Elias lay in recovery, pale but alive. Kalen never left his side. Arya stood at the foot of the bed, silent. Finally, she spoke. "You disobeyed orders. You endangered the mission. And yet, somehow, you saved it." Elias smirked faintly. "Guess I'm still good at breaking rules." Arya shook her head. "You've started something bigger than any of us. Be ready, Elias. The war is far from over." Callan's golden eyes burned as she gripped his hand, then let it come. "Together, we will make them tremble." Elias closed his eyes, a tired smile tugging at his lips. Orders had tried to chain him, but his choice had set him free. And through the stars, that choice would echo like thunder. Asterisk.